all learn.
There you go. So in Islam, you know, many times people would think of riba in where we're talking about riba, which is actually called riba nasi'a. In Islam, there are two kinds of riba. There's riba nasi'a and there's riba al-fadl. What is riba? So riba is an increase in the value of something, or it could also be riba nasi'a. Riba nasi'a is usually what people know. What is that? It's basically the type of interest when, for example, I would give you, let's say, $100, and I'll come back to you and say, listen, I gave you $100, and that was actually due on Tuesday, but then you didn't pay it on Tuesday, so I will put a price of an interest on that 20% interest because you were already late for a whole year. That's riba nasi'a. Okay, so riba nasi'a is relating to the amount that you put money, and then, of course, a price that you would put on that money, that loan that you had made. Okay, that price, whether we're speaking about a price you're probably charging a person for a late fee, or whether you're charging a person for a loan, that would still be riba nasi'a. So in other words, just the whole idea of charging a person for money that they did not pay back. In other words, it's, let's say, $200 that they didn't pay back, or they didn't actually pay on time, etc., and then charging that person a certain amount of money, that would be riba nasi'a. It wouldn't be riba nasi'a if I willingly wanted to give you, let's say, I basically, I guess, borrowed from you, let's say $300, and then the situation got better, and I gave you $300, but because you had helped me in a dire situation, I basically wanted to give you these $300, give them to you as $400. And I willingly did that. You didn't ask for it, but I willingly wanted to give that to you as a gift. That's not riba. I willingly gave that to you. In fact, this is a sunnah that when somebody gives you and basically lends you money, it's a sunnah to pay them back, and I guess somehow give them even more than what they had given you as a way of appreciation. Okay, that's riba nasi'a, just a part about riba nasi'a. Riba al-fadl, the word al-fadl, so in nasi'a, yes, it's more of time-related thing, but al-fadl is an issue of increase in value. Okay, so what does that mean? So let's say you had gold, okay, and 200 grams of gold, exactly like the ring that we said. You had 200 grams of gold in order to basically, for exchanging for the actual material, gold for gold, silver for silver, dates for dates. Those are the things that there would be riba in. Okay, so if we're talking about gold, we're talking about silver, then the exchange must be in the same value and at the same time. We're talking about value in terms of weight, not value in terms of what the price of purchase or the price of sale is. We're talking about weight here. So if we're talking about 200 grams of gold, if you wanted to change that for gold, then it must be something that is 200 grams of gold and within the same purchase. So you can't say, okay, here's my 200 grams of gold, let's say 200 grams of gold, and the guy said, I'll give you, let's say 200 grams of gold, but there are certain types of rings that I showed you in the catalog. I don't have it right now. I could only bring it tomorrow, but I know that it's going to be equivalent to altogether 200 grams of gold. No, that's riba. It has to be right now. It has to be right now. The transaction is going to be right now. The transaction is going to be, if we're talking about gold, we're going to talk about the same time. And we're also going to be talking about 200 grams of gold for 200 grams of gold, and not 200 grams of gold for, perhaps he might say, well, this is gold from Dubai and it's actually worth the 200 grams of gold that you're selling. That would be riba. Okay, that would be riba, regardless of where and what labor was put in this gold. If we're talking about 200 grams, what's going to be within that whole idea of the amount, the weight of gold, and we're talking about the same time purchase, not a later purchase. So even if he would give you the receipt and he'll tell you, here's the receipt, I'll give you, no, the actual yadan biyad. It has to be right now that I take, right now that I pay, right now that we do the exchange. All right, this is to explain the things about gold. So why is it that sensitive? Because when it comes to gold, there's some changes that happen, of course, when the value and all of these different things, of course, and therefore gold is actually the center. It is the center of value. So by changing time and changing date and changing rate and changing all of that, then you're basically going to be involved in prices that are not necessarily equivalent. And when it comes to gold, it is the price of what is actually considered as the value the value of currency. That's what it's supposed to be. It isn't until the US actually changed the value of what used to be made by, and the currency was supposed to be, and what was actually centered and based on the amount of gold that that country had. It was really the US that forced, with, of course, because America is a superpower, force that everybody would use, of course, these printed papers, these printed, of course, cash as really the value of money and not the gold. But that's why one of the main reasons why you're seeing some of the wars happening is really because some countries had wanted to basically free themselves of US supremacy, US dictatorship, US power by simply saying, hey, we're going to connect ourselves to gold and we're not going to use this type of American power to determine what is supposed to be marked as the value. In other words, we're freeing ourselves from American power. So that's when the US will basically go and attack that country, exactly the same way what happened to Libya, in where Muammar al-Qaddafi, even though, yes, he's a dictator, but Muammar al-Qaddafi wanted to do something with that currency and wanted to basically say, hey, we're going to go back to gold and we're not going to use the dollar. We're not going to stick to this American system in where it's ruling and judging how our value is basically distributed. So that's one of the main reasons why America attacked Libya. And it wasn't just Libya, it was other countries. Same thing when we're talking about Saddam Hussein. It wasn't September 11 and all of that, because Saddam Hussein anyways did not have anything to do with September 11, but it was basically the oil, and plus he wanted to somehow um, build his own autonomy, build his own, I guess, authority, and not live based on American power. So that was enough to basically attack and say, no, it's basically America that is the superpower. We determine, you don't determine. And you know what? We will even determine that your resources are important to us. We're going to invade your country and we're going to take those resources. Simple as that. So yes. So in Islam, what is that relating to riba and all of that? It's basically to ensure, one, to ensure the value of that, and two, it's to ensure justice. This is the main thing, to ensure justice when we're speaking about market, when we're speaking about value, in making sure that we are not, whether giving consent consensually or whether not giving consent, that we would not whatsoever change the value or accept to change the value in where live in justice. That's the key that Islam would consider. I hope I answered that question, dear. Okay, should we go for tafsir then?